What are the best headphones that you could be using for your podcast? I'll tell you here shortly. Stick around. Hey there, what's going on, my friend? It is the Shan Man, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and podcast producer. And today we're talking all about headphones and which are the best ones that you can be using for your podcast. Now, before we get started, I want to apologize for the disheveled look that I have today. It's been a rough couple of days. I just got back from a festival that the radio station had put on, and for the first time, we were able to record a podcast at the festival itself. And for all those questions that people have about should there be no ambient noise in the background, or how do I eliminate the distractions from what's going to actually be happening in my podcast, man, that podcast was actually a really good example of everything that could possibly go wrong, but still pushing through and recording for the podcast. I'll let you know definitely when that podcast will come out. But today I want to go ahead and talk about headphones, and in particular that day when I was recording that podcast at the festival, it brought up the topic of like what type of headphones are the best for your podcast. Now, most podcasters won't find themselves in a situation like I was in. The situation that I was in was there was background music from a concert that was going on way off into the distance, but it was still loud enough to bleed over into the microphone. But I was not able to hear the person that I was podcasting with if I didn't have great headphones. And that's why I think it's very important that I talk about this topic, because sometimes you may find yourself in that situation where you need the headphones and you need a really good set of headphones. So let's go ahead and talk about what podcasters are typically doing right now. And I want to kind of guide you into the direction of why we use good headphones, all right? Most podcasters right now are using, I hate to say it this way, but a cheap set of headphones, or they may be using their earbuds that they got with their Samsung phone or maybe their iPhone. And they think these are great ways to monitor yourself whenever you're creating a podcast. But I will tell you this right now, earbuds probably aren't the best thing that you can be using for your podcast. And there's a couple of reasons why we don't do this. Number one, earbuds are meant just for listening to music. They're just meant for monitoring and listening, not monitoring, but just listening to music in your ears. And that's all you're really doing. And you might be saying to yourself, well, it has a microphone and I'm able to speak into the microphone. You have to keep in mind that the earbuds that you're using for your phone are meant for your phone. They're not meant for monitoring. They're not meant for professional recording. And I'm not saying that podcasters are professionally recording, but if you want to be able to monitor yourself well, you will need a good set of headphones. Also, the reason we don't use earbuds is because if you get too close to a microphone, like your microphone here or any other microphone that you're using, you will get feedback into your ears. Definitely will get feedback if you have the volume turned up. So you need a good set of headphones in order to properly monitor yourself when you're recording a podcast. Now, why do we use good headphones for our podcast? And the number one reason is for monitoring the distance between you and the microphone, because the distance between you and the microphone is what is going to come out onto the final recording. So if you're far away like this, clearly you can tell that your distance from the microphone is it's too far. And this recording, obviously, I'm leaving it in for the sake of example. You can hear that there's a distance between me and the microphone. But if I get close to the microphone and you hear that I'm speaking, you can tell that it's a little louder. Okay, so as a podcaster wearing headphones, you're able to monitor that distance as you get further away from the microphone. This is all part of microphone technique. And so monitoring with a good set of headphones is definitely key when you're recording. And again, the same goes for your guest. If your guest is someone who is shy away from the microphone, during the podcast, you may have to tell them, hey, you need to get a little closer to the microphone. I need you to get a little closer. So it's just for your own personal benefit when it comes to the final outcome of your recording, to get them to be closer to the microphone so that you can have a quality listening experience. Because whenever you go into the post-production process, you're going to have to start adjusting levels, and it can become more burdensome than anything else. And the idea when it comes down to editing a podcast is so that you don't have to do as much work. The idea of editing is meant to take out pieces that you don't want, as opposed to just editing for the sake of editing. And another reason why we use headphones is that, let's say you're a podcaster who likes to use sound effects in their podcast. Well, that's a good way to monitor how loud the sound effects are going through your headphones, or what will be going over into the final recording of your podcast. It's always good to be monitoring how loud the sound is coming into the microphone and what will be shot out into the final product when it comes to your podcast. Now, I want to share a quick story about what happened to me at this festival a couple of days ago when I was recording this podcast. We were recording in an outside environment, so there were tons of people that were around us. We were using a pair of SM58 Shure microphones, and we were using my Yamaha digital USB recorder for recording out in the open, okay? So we were faced with a number of issues. We were faced with wind blowing into the microphone itself. We are faced with this loud ambient noise from people talking in the background. But here is a good example of using headphones for the benefit of being able to hear what my guest had to say. If we didn't use headphones and the music was playing in the background and people were yelling in the background, I wouldn't be able to hear him as clear as when I had headphones in. In fact, when we were conducting the recording, music started playing from the main stage, and it was actually going through these headphones that we were using, but I was still able to hear him. If I took the headphones off, I couldn't hear anything that he was saying. So it's a good way to monitor yourself if you're in an environment that doesn't lend itself to having the best scenario for recording. In this instance, though, that's what we wanted. We wanted people to capture and hear what was going on in the background. So let's talk about the two headphones that I like to use when it comes down to podcast recording. The first pair of headphones that I like to use are Shure SRH440s. These are these headphones right here, and I've been using these for about 5 years on the radio. These things work incredible. They are noise canceling, and they're basically for recording in the studio if you're a musician, but I use them for podcasting, and they're really comfortable. I don't know if you can tell right here, but they're very, very comfortable, and they have a great warm sound to them if you come in and you're doing a recording. Also, you get this cord, and it's not directly connected into the pair of headphones. In fact, you can take this out, and if the cord gets damaged, you can replace it with a brand new cord. But for the most part, it's for storage purposes too. You never really want to be bending the cord itself because it will short out itself, but you can replace this cord if you want. So this is actually a pretty expensive pair of headphones. I mean, not wildly expensive, but a good set of headphones are always good because they have durability. I mean, I just replaced these maybe about 2 years ago after using them for 3 years. So they lasted quite a long time, and you're talking about everyday use. I was using them every day. So I went ahead and I bought a couple of extra pairs, one for podcast recording and one for working out at the radio station. The second set of headphones are the MDR-7506 by Sony. These are my very first headphones that I started using when I became a radio disc jockey. These were great trainer headphones to just get started, and they do also cancel out the noise as well. They are the same headphones that I was using in that interview a couple of days ago during that concert, and they helped out so much by drowning out or by taking out all the ambient noise. I was actually able to hear my subjects speak. So these are good headphones to use as well. And the Sonys last a really long time. I highly recommend them. If you don't want to jump into the Shures, I would recommend going into the Sonys because these work really well, and these have even more warmth than the Shure SRH440s. Now, I know you're going to get on Amazon and you're going to see that Sony has some noise canceling headphones, and I tried this at one point in time, and I bought the noise canceling headphones, and they're really cheap. They're probably like $20 or $30, and you can buy them, but you have to put a battery in the headphones, and then you have to flip a switch, and then it somehow cancels out the noise in the headphones. But I will say this, those headphones didn't last very long because this part of the headphone is made of plastic, and it broke within a couple of weeks after using it over and over. So cheap headphones are really going to cost you more because you're going to end up replacing them if you're using your headphones more and more, and you end up breaking them, and you're having to constantly replace the battery, and it's just more of an annoyance. And I have these Shures listed in my Essential Quick Start Guide. If you want to go ahead and check that out, there's a link down in the description below. If you're just a starting podcaster and you want to learn more about the equipment that you're trying to get for your podcast, that link is down in the description below. So tell me, which headphones are you using right now, and will you switch into a better pair of headphones? I'd love to hear your comments down in the section below. Go ahead and comment. I do get back to people as soon as I can, and of course people in the community are also answering those questions as well. And if you missed my interview with my friend Vishnu last week, you can go ahead and tap on the video over here on your right hand side, and you can check out how to develop your own style of podcast. Vishnu has started from the ground up and is continuing to build his own podcast. You might get some good pointers from him. I hope you enjoy it. I'll talk to you next time.